Cause we is back once again with another reaction video, bro. And today I'm coming back with another reaction for y'all here, man. And hey, we got another story, man. We got another video for y'all. I'm about to be reacting to 3 disturbing car breakdown horror stories, man, from Mr. Beast. Or from Mr. Nightmare, I'm sorry. From Mr. Nightmare, you already know what it is. We're about to react to some more stories. So go ahead and get ready. Let's get it. I think it's like 3 out of 3 stories we're about to be reacting to, so we just about to check these out, man. Hopefully you guys can enjoy. Send me another video request down below. Also follow me on Twitter, man. Hit me up to send me some more videos and just hit me up just to see what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying? Just follow me on my Twitter, man. Go down, like and subscribe to the channel down below for more reactions. Let's get it. And if you guys don't subscribe to the channel, man, that's alright. At least hit the like button, bro. Let's get it. We got story number 1, bro.
One night driving home from work after a graveyard
car
shift,
breakdown stories.
I got a sudden urge to pee. Like, it was really bad. Painfully bad.
Painfully bad to go pee.
I was driving down a quiet parkway with no other cars, so I figured I'd pull to the side real quick and pee in the woods. I put my hazards on, just in case that off chance that a cop rolled by. After I finished, I got back in my truck and tried to start it. Instead, all I heard was the sickening sound of a car battery failing to start the engine.
Oh, that sucks.
I tried at least 5 times before.
Yeah, just that alone is scary, bro. That's creepy, bro. Just that alone. You know, the car just broke down in the middle of a long, dark road. Cold, dark road, too, man. You don't know what's out there.
Drain the battery anymore.
But
I left my hazards on and stepped outside, so I could be ready to wave someone down in hopes that they had jumper cables. When I did see headlights coming down the road, I went to the side of the road and started waving my arms. The car slowed down and went to pull over to the side behind my truck.
That's when all trouble starts.
As I started walking over to the car, the 2 front doors opened and 2 relatively big guys stepped out.
Why they both step out?
My tracks and then
never mind.
Immediately asking if they had jumper cables. They looked at each other, then back at me, and the driver said, "Nah." The other guy asked, "You stuck?" I said, "Yeah, my battery died." The driver said to give him a sec, he'd call one of his boys. I didn't exactly know how I felt about that. Right away, I found the 2 a little off-putting. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I got gangster kind of vibes from them. The driver got back into his car after he got on the phone. I did the same.
Gangster kind
when
of
I was sitting in my
them.
car, I couldn't help but feel I
mean?
needed to call for my own help. I didn't know how much I trusted these 2. So I called my brother's phone a couple of times before he picked up. It was past midnight after all. I had woken him up with my call, but I told him I was stuck in an emergency and needed his help. I told him to bring jumper cables and to hurry up. He said he'd be over in a few. When I hung up, I got out from the car and waved my arms out to the car behind me. The driver opened his door and stepped out to look at me, and I called over that I had help on the way and it was cool. All he said was, "Aight then," and got back in his car. That feeling of danger suddenly exited my body, and I felt at ease. I leaned my seat back so I could relax in the meantime. But soon, it came to me that I didn't hear their car pass by. I turned back and saw that their car was still there. It had been almost 5 minutes since I'd waved them off. I called my brother again, who said he just got in the car. I told him to floor it.
Hurry up.
Because I was pretty sure
He told him to floor it.
He said he had his baseball bat in the back seat as usual.
Okay, that's good.
Luckily, my truck was only about 5 minutes from our house. Less if he stepped on it. I started to beat myself up.
So if you're less than 5 minutes... Wait a minute. If you're less than 5 minutes away from your house, why didn't you just run home or walk home, dude, if you're that close to your house? He said he was less than 5 minutes away driving. It's like, what? You could have easily ran home.
Then this wouldn't have happened. Finally, more headlights appeared coming up the parkway. The approaching car slowed and pulled up behind the car that was behind me. I got out from the car and started waving my arms again. But when I saw 2 of the car doors open, I had a feeling it wasn't my brother. The driver in the first car got out and greeted his apparent goons. They all started gradually making their way over to my truck as they talked loud and cursed at each other. I guess it's worth noting there were no jumper cables in any of their hands. I'm not a lucky person at all. But when I saw the familiar headlights of my brother's Mustang zooming down the parkway towards us, I felt as if my luck had turned around for once.
Right.
He pulled up his car in front of my truck, and he came out with his baseball bat. He pulled out another baseball bat from the back seat that he brought for me. He tossed it to me, and my brother, being the larger, more dominant one, said in a very loud, firm voice, we didn't want trouble, and it's best they moved along and let us go about our business. They all backed up a little when they saw our bats. One of the guys laughed. Another one said, we ain't ever said we want no trouble. Upon examining the first car, I realized the guy who was in the passenger seat originally wasn't there anymore. I whispered to my brother to be wary. One of the men were missing. My brother got back in his car to bring his hood up in front of my hood. He fetched his cables and connected them to my battery. I kept watch of the 3 men who were lurking by their cars. Now we waited. My brother very softly called my name, and then low-key tilted his head in the direction of the woods. I looked into the woods, and saw the man who was originally in the passenger seat was now hiding in the woods, looking as if he was about to do some kind of sneak-up attack.
What the heck?
My brother told me to try the ignition. So, with one faithful turn of the key, the engine to my truck started. I got back out of the truck to literally guard my brother as he unplugged the cords from my battery and put them back in his car. We whispered to each other our plan, and that was for him to throw it in reverse as soon as we got in our cars, and I'd step on it back onto the road. After closing our hoods, we took one last look at the men huddled by the third car, looking at us. Then we ran for our respective vehicles and stepped on the gas. My brother floored it in reverse. I waited to give him enough space before I floored it as well. As I did, I heard the shattering of my back windshield as a brick landed on my dash.
What?
Then I heard the distinct sounds of gunshots, which continued to shatter the
Oh, they
remainder
had
of my back
guns.
windshield.
What?
I ducked down as low as I could get while still getting a view of the road. The 2 of us managed to flee the scene unharmed, and they didn't chase us.
What?
We went straight home to tell our
They had guns the whole
65-year-old
time.
dad, who claimed he was 100% sure we just had an encounter with a local gang. Dad
Oh.
also told us not to take that specific parkway at night because it's not a safe road.
Yeah.
I can only guess they wanted to rob me blind, and they didn't take too kindly to us waving bats in their faces.
I was just thinking, like, what if they had guns? Like, they say they had brought baseball bats. I'm like, bro, what if they had a gun, bro? You can't have, what is a stick versus a gun, bro? Like, come on now. I'm like, I was just about to say that too when I was listening. I'm like, wait a minute, what if they got a gun? And you got baseball bats, and it's like 3 of them or 4 of them. I'm like, what? And then they didn't show, like, I don't see why they didn't show off their guns in the first place. You know, when they first brought the bat out, like, they didn't, like, flash their guns or, like, anything like that. They just waited till they ran off. That's when they started shooting. Dang, that's crazy. That's a good one. I like that one. The first one's pretty good.
There's only Metro, nothing else.
So let your hands slay the enemy's servants.
Dang, that's crazy. Story number 2.
I've done a great deal of camping in my life, mostly solo camping out in the wilderness. Everyone who takes the hobby as seriously as me knows the potential dangers that come along with it.
Never been camping.
However, there was
I
one
wanna go
thing that
camping,
happened
bro. I
on
never
the camping
been.
trip that I never anticipated.
A bear.
I was in my tent, which sat next to a small flowing river. My campfire was breathing its last breaths. I was already
That's
laying
breathing
in a
its
sleeping
last
bag
breaths.
trying to sleep. I started to hear something circling around my tent. At first, it started as big, heavy branches snapping in the distance. Then it turned
Dude, I
to
wanna go
closer
camping,
steps
bro.
on the forest floor surrounding my
Camping
tent.
vibes.
I ruled it out as being a bear or a larger animal because the footsteps
Ooh,
didn't
what if it's a
seem heavy.
bear, bro? I'll be so
Plus, the fire
scared.
would more often than not draw such animals away. To be safe, I still stayed inside the tent to refrain from making any noise. But the steps just kept circling around my tent. Finally, I called out, "Hello?" The
Who's
steps
there?
didn't stop.
Oh.
Now I sat up, ready to take a quick look outside.
Watch it be a deer or something.
I unzipped the tent and crawled outside. I still heard the footsteps, but now it seemed whatever was making the footsteps was being more cautious about moving around so loudly.
It was a bear. Or it was
I
a
looked
deer.
out into the darkness of
guessing.
the forest in the direction the steps were coming from.
It was a deer.
And very briefly, I saw a light. Not just any kind of light, though. It was undeniably a phone screen, I turned
no
off as
deer.
quickly as it came on. Now I knew there was a person out there circling my campsite. I had already called to them, and they didn't respond
You
to
gotta
me.
bring your steer
That
stick.
was a very bad sign. Despite my experience in camping and wilderness, I'd never been stalked by a human before, and I wasn't comfortable there anymore. I have a license to carry a sidearm, however, and I always bring it with me when I go camping. I felt it was an appropriate time to pull that out from my bag. I started to pack my things as fast as possible. I can't begin to explain how scared I was as I packed up my sleeping bag and tent.
Oh man.
I found myself turning around every few seconds to make sure someone wasn't sneaking up on me. Maybe I wouldn't have been so scared if the footsteps around my camp didn't keep going. When everything was packed, I didn't try to hide the fact that I was sprinting back to my car, which wasn't parked far away. I threw my stuff in the back seat and hopped in, locking the door first thing. I turned the car on, and as I put it in drive, the car started to wobble and shake, and I heard a terrible scraping noise. I stopped the car. A low tire pressure alert came on for all 4 tires.
All 4
and
tires.
I knew then that all 4 tires had been slashed by somebody.
Ah.
I couldn't possibly move that car without
Let me
destroying
guess.
my
It was the
wheels.
guy that was you seen.
So I sat there in a pitch black
the phone.
forest with the only light being from my headlights. I was afraid to look outside in any direction, for someone could be hidden, watching from any possible direction. I sat there for a few seconds with my whole body shaking. I finally grabbed my phone to call the police. At the same time, I looked in the rearview mirror, and I saw someone standing at the trunk of my car. My heart was in my stomach at this point. I don't know how I didn't scream. I took a deep breath, grabbed the handgun sitting in the passenger seat, opened the door, and stepped out with aggression. I aimed the gun at the person standing at the back of my car, who raised his hands in the air. I screamed at him as loud and aggressively as I could to get the fuck away from my car. I was ready to shoot the car. I wasn't bluffing. I was ready to shoot him. I stepped out with aggression. I aimed the gun at the person standing at the back of my car, who raised his hands.
He said, and aggressively and
I
loudly as I
screamed at
could.
him as loud and aggressively as I could to get the fuck away from my car. I wasn't bluffing. I was ready to shoot him. He backed away into the woods. And once I
Dude,
couldn't
that's
see him
funny.
anymore, I got back in my car and called the police. I told them to come to the dirt parking area for the particular park I was camping in. They said a state trooper would be en route.
Look at that, bro.
I called my towing company in the meantime while waiting for the
That's
trooper
creepy.
to arrive. All while my body was still shaking and I was still
Bro,
cautious
can you
of
imagine being
my
in
surroundings.
a long dirt?
I never appreciated
lonely
seeing
woods,
police
bro.
more than when the
Look at
trooper
that,
pulled
bro.
into the
That'd be
small dirt lot with his
You don't
hands
know what
up.
could be out
I
there.
finally felt safe to get out from my car.
But at the same time, it's kind of cool though.
The
You
tow
think
truck
about
came
it.
20 minutes
Go out
later.
camping in
My
the
car was towed to a
woods. You
repair
don't know what
shop.
could happen.
I
It's
slept in my car
spontaneous.
overnight, and first thing in the morning, my tires were replaced. This never stopped me from continuing camping.
That story was alright. Was it better than the first one? No, but it was alright though.
My old Buick used to have issues with the gas gauge. The gauge was off, so sometimes I'd fill the tank completely
Starting
and the
three,
needle on
y'all.
the gauge would still hover around the E. And sometimes when the tank was running low, the needle would sit around F. The needle seemed to decide when it wanted to work or not. Well, one night after coming back from a vacation and not driving for a week, I guess I had forgotten how long it had been since I'd filled up the tank,
Yeah, it
because
was
the
sad,
car
it was
ran out
full.
of gas in some quiet road in an even quieter town.
Wow.
I didn't want to call my girlfriend because she lived too far away, and I didn't want to be a bother. I got out from the car and looked around my surroundings. There was not much, except for trees on either side and a small house sitting atop a hill to the right of my car. So, that was my only option to go for help. I went up
You know
the
they
hill to the
creepy.
house and rang the bell.
They got the only house in
It was
this.
9:30, so it wasn't
Only house
exactly
in
too
town.
late to be ringing someone's bell in this kind of scenario. I waited patiently. There were lights on in the house after all. After a minute, I gave the bell one more ring, but I told myself that would be it. After waiting another minute, I accepted defeat and walked away from the door. As I went down the little walkway, I heard a weird noise that seemed to be coming from the side of the house, like the moaning and distressed breathing of someone in pain. It came from behind a line of bushes. Quite frankly, I didn't feel right snooping over there, so I continued back down the driveway. I did take a look back at the house, and noticed a light upstairs was on now that wasn't on before, and and there was someone standing at the window. I could see their head and shoulders. I stared for a moment, expecting them to do something, like maybe come to the door. But they didn't move, and it got weird. I continued back to my car.
He said they didn't move, and it got
I
weird.
leaned on my car door and called AAA, which was my roadside assistance company. They said they would deliver gas to me within half an hour. It was too hot out to sit in my car, so I stayed outside. I waited around texting people, checking Instagram, and pacing back and forth. When I heard a deep voice go, "Excuse me," my head shot up. There was a guy standing by the curb near the driveway to the house. He was wearing a hat really low and tilted his head down, hiding a lot of his face. He asked me if there was a problem. I said I ran out of gas right here. All he said in response was, "Oh." He turned and started walking back up the hill. Pretty soon he disappeared behind the bushes on his property. He seemed like a very creepy man based on that short interaction. I texted my girlfriend about the whole thing, and she said I should go see what that sound I was hearing behind the bushes was.
Why?
I kind of wanted to be honest. So I snuck through the trees next to the guy's house, up the hill, and went to the side of the house where I heard the noises. I tiptoed up to the wall of the house, and then stopped to listen. There were the moans and breathing again. They were coming from a window. I went to the window and tried to look inside, but the blind was down, so I couldn't.
Yeah.
The sounds were concerning, though. I lightly tapped on the window and said, "Is everything okay?" I heard someone say in a faint, weak voice, "Help." I stood there thinking about what to do, when all of a sudden the blind kinked open, and I saw a face looking back at me through the window. I couldn't tell for sure, but it looked like the creepy man who came outside. The kink in the blind dropped back down shut, and then the window dropped closed, so I couldn't hear anything else. I didn't care, though. I ran back down to my car, got in, and locked the door. I waited until the AAA truck came, and when they filled my tank, I didn't say a word about what I just witnessed. I just went home and tried to get some sleep that night.
Oh, you
I
didn't
never
even
wanted
help.
to see or think about that house again.
Dang. He didn't even help him, bro. Like, you could at least got like a crowbar, you know, like a little crowbar or something from the AAA guy who came. You should at least got something from him, or like told like the AAA guy, like call the cops or something, bro. You could have called the cops on that guy. You know what I'm saying? Before it got too worse, because we don't know what happened to that guy that was trapped in that basement, bro. Dang. I like that one too. I think the third one was pretty good too. If I have to rate it, I have to go number 1, number 3, and number 2. Number 3 is really good though. It wasn't scary. Well, I don't know, bro. Y'all can let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. Bro, he didn't even help him, bro. Which y'all would just went home and just forgot about it and slept it off for you guys, but would you guys like actually help him out and call the cops? Or, you know what I'm saying, like when the AAA guy came, you guys would have like called the cops, or like who would you would have did? I would have like called the cops, bro. And, like would have did something. Or like shook my head, like, okay, just stay right here. Just, you know what I'm saying? Like as I was talking to him through the window, that's what I would have did. Anyways, man, that was it, bro. 3 stories for the night, bro. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. About Mr. Nightmare, man. Go down, like and subscribe to the channel down below for more reactions. Let's get it. And if you guys don't subscribe to the channel, man, that's alright. At least hit the like button, bro. Let's get it. I'm gonna see y'all in the next reaction video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, man, the 3 horror stories. Cause you know I did. I love listening to stories, bro. Hey, follow me up on Twitter, man. Hit me up. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter. Let me know if you guys want to see more reaction videos. You know what I'm saying? You guys can chat with me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. It's at Coco. It's in the description down below, bro. So don't forget to do that. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Go ahead and share it and like it up, bro. It really means a lot. And this you guys, just by sharing it and liking it, it helped me out a lot, bro. It helps the channel out and it helps me grow. Because we got to grind. We got to grow our channel, bro. Let's get it.